We're here in the Leicestershire countryside, and yes, this is as cold as it looks, about -4, but it will be worth it because we are visiting Hi-Spec Precision Engineering. This is a subcontract machine shop that has the widest variety of automation from different brands too. So look, if you're interested in any type of automation, this show is unmissable. Darren, what a machine shop. I mean, you're a subcontract machine shop and you have got so many different types and brands of automation. Why is that key to your investments?
It's really to do with getting the skilled staff these days. So the skilled staff we have got need to be deployed on areas that need the skill, and the loading, if we can do it with automation, that's great.
But you've chosen so many different brands. Why have you done that? And varieties too.
It's to get the best tool for the job. Each machine will need to have different automation to get the best out of it, be it a pallet changer or a robot or a gantry. So it's just getting the right tool for the right job, and sometimes it's confined by space.
True, there's so many different areas you need to consider, and throughout you're going to see all of the different varieties, literally every single variety of automation throughout the show you are going to be able to see. Now Darren, you've just invested in another piece of automation, but I want to go back to the beginning. You started in 2004. Why did you think, right, I need this machine, but I need to go for that extra, I need to go for that high-spec automated machine? And what was your first piece?
Well, the steps into automation were probably 2 years ago, to do with staff leaving to go into other fields. Not being able to get people easily was the driving factor, and at that point it was to load CNC lathes. So the robot arm systems were the obvious choice, and Hydrofeed and the Robo Job was the very first piece of true automation. And yeah, I mean, it's been a winner since.
Right then, so let's talk and find out about the Robo Job. And this is kind of like your vertical machining centre section, isn't it?
Yeah, spot on. This is our second Robo Job.
Oh, your second?
Yeah, second one. First one was on the lathe, loved it so much, within a couple of weeks we were talking to Hydrofeed about getting another one. We wanted to automate the 5-axis machines and take away some of the repetitive operations the guys were having to do vices up constantly and stuff like that. So yeah, Hydrofeed come up with a very tidy little package using the Robo Job, and perfect. And
you can see, of course, it's actually, you know, it's just finished a lot of these. How does this, how can you change this as such? Because you've got pins on here, but that can change.
The software will tell you where to put the pins depending on the size of the material. This particular job we can rack up somewhere in the region of about 40 hours worth of work.
Oh, okay.
On these parts on that one table, so we could leave it running day and night without having to load it. It's all the simplicity of the software, and yeah, I mean.
You pleased?
Oh yeah, I'll have another one in a heartbeat.
Exactly.
So,
and floor space, another question. You know, this is a cell, it's all protected.
Yeah.
Why have you gone for this? Because some are and some aren't, are they?
By having the guarding around it, you actually can get a smaller footprint. The scanners on the floor mean you need to have a much bigger area. So yeah, we were tight on space. This was ideal.
Okay, and you'd recommend it to others, and why?
Yeah, I'd have no hesitation in recommending Hydrofeed or Robo Job. They're very easy systems to use, very reliable, and if you do the sums, the payback is very quick.
Wow, I mean, the fact that you bought one and then only a few weeks after just proves it's exactly what you needed for your business. Right, okay, let's talk financials now then. How has automation helped your business grow?
The biggest thing is 2-3 years ago I had 12 employees. Because of retirement, the number of employees has reduced, the output has gone up, and that is purely down to automation.
And what about overnight running? Are you using your machines overnight or not?
We can, but at the moment we don't need to. There is extra risk involved in running when nobody's here. So
what are those risks?
Those risks are tool wear, dimensional wander. Worst case would be something actually breaking, damaging the machine. The later investments have got sensors on to help get away from that. But like I say, if we need to run overnight, we can and we will. Otherwise, it's during the day.
As Darren mentioned, the overnight run, this is one of the reasons why he purchased this Kitamura machine. Now, it's just literally getting installed by Chris from DoGuard. Hi Chris, you're right. He's installing it at the moment, so it's not quite ready to go yet. But the reason is he wanted to go for a horizontal, just to get that production and open up his capacity from his vertical machining centres. Now this is a twin pallet, but then it's got the 10 pallet changer on the other side. He is achieving and trying to achieve that spindle to keep running and running and running and never stopping. And over here what you can see is you've got your pallets. These are 250 pallets in terms of size. I think they can hold 100 kg, but he would be putting a tombstone on here. He'll be putting work holding in on here, so you can put multiple parts and then change it as required. Now the other thing also was the fact that he's got the probing on here, the Renishaw probe. That's the reason he said unmanned run, overnight run, because of course if there's any issues, he's got the probing on there, tooling issues or anything. I believe you can have 65 as standard, but you can, and I believe this machine has 102 tools, so you've got all that backing up of spare tools if you need it for the overnight run. So production and keeping that spindle turning with regards to this Kitamura machine. Darren, not many subcontract machine shops have the variety and the amount of automation, because they're, you're making different quantities and different volumes. So how does that work for you?
It's really down to ease of use. If the software with the automation is easy to use, easy to program and quick, then batch size becomes less important. We can set some of the robots for 5s, 10s. It's not a big issue. It might take 5 or 10 minutes to program the automation and 5 or 10 minutes to make a few changes mechanically, and it's good to go.
And is it difficult, when you first go, right, okay, I'm going to have a vertical machining centre, I'm a machinist, I know how that's going to work. What's the transition like when you introduce automation? Is it easy?
With the systems available at the moment, the technology and the way these companies are producing their products, it's so easy. The learning curve is minimal, massively reduced.
Right, let's go and see one of your first purchases of automation, which is the Mideco pallet changer.
So Lyndsey, this is our Mideco pallet changer. It's only their smallest model, I believe.
And it's connected to a 3-axis, is that?
Yep. It's bolted onto the side of our Herco VM5. So we've got 2 platens within the pallet changer. Each platen has got 3 vices on, so one will be in the machine working. When that's done, it will be pulled out and the other one will automatically go in, so we can load the vices, load the parts whilst the machine is running, keeping spindles turning.
And when you're talking about keeping those spindles turning, what stats have you got on this one? Because it's quite interesting.
This one in particular, we've had upwards of 90%. I can pick certain jobs where we've had 96, 97% spindle uptime within our shift.
Wow.
So it's doing a fantastic job.
And across the board, how can you, financially as a business, how do you kind of warrant and what do you kind of attribute financially your business increase, if that makes sense, down to automation,
All the growth we've had in the last 2 years will be down to automation. There's plenty of work out there if you can keep up with doing it and service the customers. And the only way to service those customers and take that work on is by automation.
And can you, with your growth, is there any stats that you can say that's worked for you behind that, like per person, labour to machine or anything like that?
If you look at the turnover 3 years ago against the amount of employees against now, per employee, the output has roughly doubled.
Fantastic. Is there anything else that you have to invest in with regards to automating? Because you just said vices here.
Yeah.
Does it help with coolant and tool life as well?
Well, from a point of view of coolant, we've stuck with the coolant that we're happy with, but particularly work holding. In this instance, we've got a platen. We'll make the most of that. So we've gone for 3 dual station vices to take up as much room on that platen, get as many parts to the spindle at a time, and every little bit helps.
And was there much competition when looking at this? Why did you go for this one over others?
There wasn't a great deal available, or at least that I found at the time, but the Mideco name is certainly one that's got some good heritage with it. It's a quality product, and it fitted the bill, particularly from a point of view of size, because we needed a small changer to go on our small machine.
Darren, we can really get a feel now that your company has automation at the heart of it, but of course for anyone looking to invest in automation, what are the risks involved?
The main risks as such that we've found is maybe becoming a little bit complacent that everything's going to run fine. You still need to check sizes, you still need to check tips and tools. The robot doesn't know if something's wandered out of tolerance, it will just keep making them. So there's still a human element, you still need people.
How do you stay on top of that?
It's just regular checks, getting into a good housekeeping side of things with it. You need to have people tending to the robots. The robots just do the laborious, low-skilled work.
Right, it's really interesting actually, because this is an honest engineer's perspective. You've said it's been a learning curve for you. What has been that learning curve?
We've had parts creep out of tolerance, we've had to do rework as we're getting used to how tips last, how long drills will last before they start giving you problems. Whilst you've got an operator at the machine, that person's constantly monitoring, even if they don't realise they're just looking after the setup. With a robot, with a gantry loader, you have to be a little bit more regimented in going back to it, check it, make sure everything's okay. But once you get used to that, good as gold.
Darren, lathes, why have you gone for 3 different types of automation on your lathes?
Once again, it's getting the right tool for the right job. Bar feeds, great. They have a very particular purpose. We want to load billets, we want to load shafts, different components. So we need the right tool for the right job.
Okay, so let's start with this one here, with the Robo Job, similar to what we've already seen, but are there any unique qualities and features that you have that are different from the vertical to the lathe?
The systems are very similar. With the lathe Robo Job setup, the grippers are different to start with. For billets, we've got 2 3-jaw grippers. One of them sprung loaded to help push it into the chuck. We've also got a turnover station, although we can get that on the milling machines as well. That allows it to turn over the work, as you've just seen, and reload it back the other way. We've got a pallet, so we can load bigger items from the pallet.
So this pallet on the floor,
yeah, that
can you just explain that, sorry? Is this...
So that's set up with V's so we can put on shaft work. Because of the size of the machine, the shafts tend to be shorter, but we can pick the billets up from the side, load them into the machine, support them with hydraulic steadies, tailstocks, so we can do longer components than we would otherwise do on a billet stacker.
And just before we actually went live on camera, you said that you would often sit in your office over there and you just love it when you turn around, you have a little look at the machine working away, and you just know it's going and you've got no problems.
Well, this is it. It frees me up to do other things, which is crucial, really.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Right, so from one variety of automation to another, I know you go for all bells and whistles on a lot of your lathes as well, with the Y-axes and everything. But let's talk about bar feeds. What is it that you see in a good bar feed? What makes a good bar feed, a bad bar feed, and what makes it useful to you?
I'd imagine there isn't so much a thing as a bad bar feed, but for us, we wanted servo bar feed for exact positioning. I wanted to have a minimum 1.5 metre bar feeds, which is what we've got. So we only have to cut bars in half rather than 3 that we had to previously do. The Hydra feed bar feeds, good, reliable. They cover the size range we need. We can get plenty of stock in there. We can run for hours without reloading. They've also got a very useful backstop feature. So we can use the bar feed as the backstop if we're loading jobs in the front of the machine down the spindle instead of having to bolt in backstops.
And there is one more variety.
Yep.
And what's that?
Through the other side, we have a gantry loaded CNC lathe. So
right, let's
we can go and have a look.
So what we're seeing now then is the gantry loaded lathe. Now this is slightly larger than the other varieties of automation. So why have you gone for this?
This setup, whilst it looks rather large, the lathe is a normal size lathe effectively. Yep. But the gantry gives us the automation across the top. If we had gone for the robot arm style automation, it would have come out into our gangway too much.
So it's all down to footprint and space?
All down to footprint. Everything's above the machine, with exception to the stocker, but that's localised to where the size is.
So who's this aimed at, and can you show us how it works?
Right. These gantry systems can be for billets or shafts. We've gone for a shaft setup. We wanted to automate longer parts that we previously couldn't. Very simply, within the stocker, you've got a number of chain belts. These can be specified. You can have 2 to 5, I believe, and we've got 4, so we can have anywhere between 1 row and 3 rows of parts. You space the chains out. You can put your components in.
That would normally obviously be the raw billet.
Yeah, these would normally be raw billets. These are finished parts that have just finished, but it shows a principle. So you push them up to the stop, you program the robot, and then it will pick them up, put them in the machine, do what it's got to do, and then put them back down on the other conveyor as a finished part.
This is a bit of a silly question, you may say it is or not, but like a fixed head or a slider or something like this, why do you go for this then over those?
Well, really, it's down to application again. These parts, I would imagine, would be slightly difficult on a slider because of the length of the thread, but it's more what we can do. We can do shafts up to 80mm diameter by 600 long, up to 22 kilos. So you're not really going to be producing that kind of part on a slider. The machine is a fixed head machine anyway. So it's more about how you get that work into the machine for the machine to do what it's got to do without somebody stood doing it.
Yet another example of automation, but in 2 different ways, which is so interesting. Now, just to finalise, for anyone who's watching, they may never have purchased automation. It may be the first leap, it may be that you're starting up your own company, or the fact that they may have one style of automation, but in vertical machining centres, but maybe not the lathes. What would you say to people who are looking to invest? Because you went through this for the first time. So what was your learning curve?
There's 2 or 3 things really. Buy the best you can afford. Get as many of the whistles and bells on there. They do make a difference.
Why is that?
We've learned through the years, not so much with the automation because I've learned prior to that, but buying the correct tools, buying the quality machines, it makes a difference how long they last, how exact and precise they are. The biggest thing is don't be scared of thinking that they're only for high volume. The automation these days is very good for smaller batches. It's very easy to use.
And during the purchasing process, what would you say to people? Of course, with the current climate, it's very difficult to go out, but you know, there are examples that you can go to showrooms, you can wear your mask and everything like that. What would you say to people to go and speak to the OEMs and get in there and show example parts? Is that how you start off?
Yeah, I mean, it's as good a place as any to start. It's by talking to the companies that provide the equipment, you're going to get a great overview. Also by looking at the many videos on MTD
like
about the automation recently. And if you can get into end users, COVID aside, but if you can get into people who are using the equipment and talk to them, it's
going
gold.
to get the honest answer,
Exactly,
aren't you? It's
yeah.
like social proof that yes, it works.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Darren, for
Pleasure.
allowing us into your facility. And, you know, I really think when you're investing and just chatting to you off camera, you're really future-proofing your business using automation. And I really, really do think you're going to do so well here. So thank you.